Evolution, no finer tale has ever been spun. In my continual reading of the evolutionary dribble passed off as science, I stumbled across this article from the March 2005 edition of Scientific American. It was written by Dr. Michael Shermer. Dr. Michael Shermer is founding publisher of Skeptic magazine. He is the executive director of the Skeptic Society and a columnist for Scientific American. The article is entitled "The Fossil Fallacy: Creationist Demand for Fossils That Represent Missing Links Reveals a Deep Misunderstanding of Science." You may read the entire article here, but let me concentrate on 4 very revealing paragraphs. Number 1, Shermer says, "When I debate creationists, they present not one fact in favor of creation, and instead demand just one transitional fossil that proves evolution." Dr. Shermer has spoken a blatant lie beginning his article concerning intelligent design or creation supported by no facts at all. We continually present tons of evidence, scientific evidence, evidence that sends evolutionists into a frenzied tailspin. The evidence comes from the fields of astronomy, physics, biology, quantum physics, and modern DNA research, just to name a few. The websites and books presenting the evidence are too numerous to even list here. Dr. Shermer's truthfulness about debating creationists who do not present scientific evidence must be called into question, in that any real creationist debater always includes tons of scientific evidence which supports the idea of intelligent design. Let me go so far as to say at the outset that Dr. Shermer appears to be flat out lying. The reason that we ask for just one transitional fossil is because the evolutionists themselves have continually paraded out fossils over the years and then proclaimed them to be the definitive missing link, the transitional fossil the world has been waiting for. This hokey parade has been going on for over a century. Remember Piltdown Man, Neanderthal Man, Peking Man, and most recently Ida, which turns out to be an ancient extinct lemur skeleton? All of these were declared to be the definitive missing link, the final proof, the transitional fossil, yet all later were proven to be a hoax or a mistake or just plain sloppy science. Yes, we ask for this proof because the evolutionists themselves continually claim to have it, but they do not, so now their story is shifting. Paragraph number 2. Shermer says, "We know evolution happened." Note the arrogance of this statement. Not because of transitional fossils, he says, but because of the convergence of evidence from such diverse fields as geology, paleontology, biogeography, comparative anatomy, etc. He says no single discovery from any of these fields denotes proof of evolution, but together they reveal that life evolved in a certain sequence by a particular process. If this is his proof, then boy is he in trouble, for one could just as easily insert the word creation for evolution and compose the following sentence sounding just as authoritative. We know creation happened, not because of the absence of transitional fossils, but because of the convergence of evidence from such diverse fields as geology, paleontology, biogeography, and physiology, molecular biology, and the like. No single discovery from any of these fields denotes absolute proof of creation, but together they reveal that life was created in a certain sequence by a particular process of intelligent design. The conclusion is logical and inescapable. Paragraph number 3. Shermer says, "One of the finest compilations of evolutionary data," remember his words here, "and theory since Charles Darwin is Richard Dawkins' magnus opus, The Ancestor's Tale, a pilgrimage to the dawn of evolution. 688 pages of convergent science recounted with literary elegance," Shermer says. Shermer continues, "Dawkins traces numerous transitional fossils from Homo sapiens back 4 billion years to the origin of heredity and the emergence of evolution. No single transitional fossil proves that evolution happened, but together they reveal a majestic story of process over time." He says no single transitional fossil proves that evolution happened, but together they reveal a majestic story of process over time. How convenient! So you can take the fossil remains of a fish, a monkey, and a man, as Dawkins does in his book, and then fabricate a tale and draw pictures in a book of how they are all related and one came from another, and then declare together they reveal a majestic story of process over time? Even a child can see the obvious fallacy in that logic. It is the logic of pure pseudoscience delusion. Let's speak of the book to which he referenced, Dawkins' work entitled The Ancestor's Tale, A Pilgrimage to the Dawn of Evolution. If one has read this book, then one would know that the narrative is structured as a pilgrimage with all modern animals following their own path, imagined by Dawkins, through history to the origin of life, supposedly. Humans meet their evolutionary cousins, of course the ones that Dawkins declares are cousins, at rendezvous points along the way in the book, the points at which the lineage supposedly diverged. At each point, Dawkins attempts to infer from molecular and fossil observations the probable form of the most recent common ancestor, and then fancifully describes the modern animals that supposedly join humanity's growing traveling party. The structure that Dawkins employs is obviously inspired by Geoffrey Chaucer's The Canterbury Tales, which is a collection of stories written in Middle English in the 14th century. The Canterbury Tales are told as a part of a storytelling contest by a group of pilgrims as they travel together on a journey. So it is interesting to note the use of the word tales in his title, The Ancestor's Tale, because this word, most commonly used in the English language, indicates a made-up or fictional story, as in the Canterbury Tales. In Dawkins' book, for example, Dawkins discusses why our fish-like ancestors moved to the land. Our fish-like ancestors indeed, Dr. Dawkins. Remember, Dr. Sherman calls this one of the finest compilations of evolutionary data and theory since Charles Darwin. Yes, indeed, it probably is. This probably is about as good as evolution ever gets. The fourth statement Sherman makes. No single fossil proves that dogs came from wolves, but archaeological, morphological, genetic, and behavioral fossils converge to reveal the common ancestor of all dogs to be the East Asian wolf. The tale of human evolution, Shermer says, is divulged in a similar manner, although here, he says, we do have an abundance of fossils, as it is for all common ancestors in the history of life. We know evolution happened because innumerable bits of data from myriad fields of science conjoin to paint a rich portrait of life's pilgrimage. Fancy-sounding words, but let's just get to the crux of the matter. Number one, a creationist has no problem with dogs coming from wolves, nor humans going through various stages of adaptivity to climates and terrain and environmental concerns. These are scientifically observable and provable genetic phenomena. Changes within kinds of living things are well documented. Even the Bible allows for this scientific truth. But to say that one kind of animal becomes another kind of animal, as evolution proudly proclaims, is just not supported by science, anywhere, ever. There simply is no such proof. Yet this proclamation that one kind of life became another kind of life is the very foundation of evolution. To call it the tale of human evolution is very revealing indeed, for the story of evolution really is a tale. It is a fictional story that began with a fictional premise. We don't want there to be creator, so we must say that all living things happen by accident. So we collect the fossils and develop a tale around the fossils as to how these fossils must be, no, have to be related. Then we proclaim that no single fossil proves evolution. Instead, we proclaim that since we have an abundance of fossils, then logically all the fossils taken together tell us the story we want to hear. So we make the story up, according to our wishes, and call it science. Remember the subtitle of the article? Creationist demand for fossils that represent missing links reveals a deep misunderstanding of science? Indeed, it seems that the evolutionist demand that there need not be any real scientific evidence, simply a fanciful story connecting the dots written in a book, it seems that this reveals a much, much deeper misunderstanding of real science on the part of the evolutionist. It seems that evolution, by Dr. Shermer's own admission, is nothing more than a pseudoscientific tale. Bravo, Dr. Shermer. Bravo, Dr. Dawkins. We agree. No finer tale since Chaucer has ever been spun.